Hello, my name is Marceline Keene, and this is the final entry in a series of videos of debates. And in this one, I am responding to Caitlin, who responded to my initial debate about Makah Nation whaling. She started out her response by pointing out the unusual mortality events that whales are faced with. However, the examples she brought up were of very recent memory, like the early 2000s and 2010s, which I think is an unfair comparison for talking about the decline in whale population, given that that is not in a vacuum of the Makah Nation. That's in response to the entire climate and white industry impacting their population still. And there are so many ways that that white industry does impact the whale population and the sea in general. Aquatic vehicles um, pollute sound in the ocean, so that it just, like, the noise from the vehicles are so loud that it disrupts whale communication, and that like breaks up their pods completely. And so that impacts a whole bunch of whales because you can't escape that. um, and of course there's just chemical pollution as well that is awful for you. um, and again, all of these are really recent, but the Makah Nation, with no problems, has hunted whales for thousands of years. Not like the last 200 and specifically the last 50 with a large scale. Like, there's not a problem with them hunting the whales, it's a problem with everybody else. And so that kind of that same problem with the false equivalency can be seen in uh, the example that Caitlin gave of Japan and Norway stopping hunting whales. Those are like large countries with a lot of people and like large governments with a lot of industry. They're not doing it for the same purposes that the Makah Nation is. It's just not a fair comparison. And the Makah Nation, as a small group of people, relatively speaking, should be allowed to make their own decision on that. And yes, it's a compromise, but it's that's they're not. It's not the same scale at all. And not to be snarky, I don't want to do that, but you asked me to zoom out to look at the bigger picture, and I invite you to zoom out because this problem, in my eyes, kind of bears resemblance to similar sorts of arguments between like individualist action against climate change versus industry and government. Uh, as individuals, even collectively, we can moderately help things a bit by buying less things, reusing things, repairing things, just generally not making the economy so fast moving. However, that is nothing in the face of governments that are dumping thousands of pounds of stuff into the ocean all the time, that are forcing economies to be solely reliant on really volatile resources like oil, as seen in places like Nigeria. They have a government now that can't be really undone so far. That is just pure based on the oil, and that's awful for every part of their existence. And we did that. Uh, or there's like giant, massive fishing where we get a whole bunch of fish in a giant net all the time. Just keep racking those up. Or fracking, or any number of other things that the government does that we have no control over. And that is the problem. Like, that's the reason why all of this is a problem. It's not because of us. It's not because of individuals practicing cult. It's because of giant industries. So, a bit of a ramble, but I hope you see my point in that, like, yeah, the Makah Nation, they're they hunt whales, and the whale population is kind of like not doing great, but it's not their fault. And there's a very, very big difference in their responsibility, and it should not fall on them to work this out. It should fall on everyone else who's making a much larger impact. Uh, they've been able to do this with zero issues up to this point. Nothing has changed with how they're doing things. We have to change. um, yeah.